what's kind of interesting about this part combined is Edgar talked a little bit about, obviously the word balance a lot, using integration or harmony. My goal is to help you actually realize that the things that bring you this feeling of balance or integration or harmony are maybe not what we think they are. So you don't have to close your eyes if you don't want to. I'm going to close mine. But I want you right now to think about a time in your life where you felt totally on it. You were confident. You were highly energized, excited about things, about life, about activities and events. You were creative. You ate problems for breakfast. You felt good. You felt like you knew who you were. Everybody got a time, got that feeling? Raise your hand if you kind of have that time in mind, have that feeling. Okay. Now, I want you to do the opposite. I want you to think of a time where you felt totally off. Low energy, sleeping a lot, really insecure, making a lot of excuses, rationalizations, just overall general bad feeling. Anybody got that time? Okay. Now I want you to look at the activity in your life at that time. When you were feeling good, what did your schedule look like? Anybody? When you were feeling good, what did your schedule look like? Working out. I heard 87 hours. I'm guessing I had to do with working over the summer. Reading a lot of books. Meditating, busy. What was it? Having things to do. Okay. Pretty common trends. Now let's think of the other one. How did your life look like then? What was your schedule like? A lot of sleep, I just heard yelled at me. Anybody ever feel like that over like Christmas break or over the summer before you did Southwestern? So my goal, here's the thing about this part, guys, and I feel this way about many parts. Unfortunately, the people in this room who need to hear this part the most are probably not really paying attention right now. So I hope that's not you. Try to understand that this is a life philosophy we're talking about. Because life is going to challenge you wherever you go. Life is painful. Your only choice is what flavor of pain do you want? Believe it or not, that's actually a Buddhist philosophy. Buddha said that all of life is suffering. It's a pretty depressing statement. When somebody asked Buddha, what's enlightenment, he said, the end of suffering. But think about it. Who likes playing video games? Who likes watching TV? Okay, so that should cover pretty much most people in the room. If you sit and play video games for too long, how do you feel? The groans in the room, I can understand. It's not good. When you sit and do anything that's pleasure-seeking for too long, we feel bad. Now, why is that? I believe that human beings are designed, whether it's by God or by evolution or by both, whatever you believe, we're designed to be purpose-driven creatures, to live a life of purpose. In fact, maybe that time that you thought of that was really low energy and negative, maybe you were really busy, but you were busy doing meaningless things. That could still be a part of the problem. We're purpose-driven creatures, and when we do not have fulfillment in our life, we're miserable. So I learned early on, thankfully, that balance, integration, harmony, whatever word you want to call it, does not come from pleasure. It comes from intentionality. It comes from how we spend our time and what purpose we're building into our life, what we're creating. Every year, I usually end up doing a vacation that lasts at least 2 weeks. Usually it's around 3. This past year, we were in Hawaii. And my wife and I were there for like 16 days. And in the middle of it, I started to do things like whether it was investments or reading, because I can only be on vacation for so long before I start feeling crappy about myself. And that's not a balance thing I'm talking about. If our goal, whose goal in life is to be happy? Anybody? Okay. I would imagine all of you. I'm gonna drop an unfortunate but very powerful truth right now. Happiness does not come from pleasure. Pleasure comes from pleasure, and pleasure is fleeting. So that delicious meal, that movie, that vacation, those are great experiences. We're not talking about not doing them. We're talking about stopping trying to seek happiness from those things, because you won't find it. Your best self, your happiness came from what? It came from fulfillment in your schedule. It came from doing activities that were meaningful and purposeful. Remember, guys, this is life we're talking about. But that does explain why being off schedule is really, really miserable, doesn't it? Why do we stay on schedule? Is it just because we want to hit our goals and make a bunch of money? Those things help, but I'll tell you why you should stay on schedule, because it sucks less than not being on schedule. Anybody want to argue that? We're going to give you some tools on how to implement this. You guys all understand what I'm talking about? Pleasure, fulfillment. You get the value of seeking fulfillment over pleasure. So now we're going to move on to some actionable items that you guys can actually implement to start working on improving the level of fulfillment in your life.
Number one, guys, is minimize the toxins, okay? And this is who you surround yourself with. These are, who are you hanging out with? Do they have a toxic mentality? Are they bringing you down? Do they have toxic behavior? Okay. Also, minimize the toxins that you put into your body. That's another important one. Number two, spend time alone. That coping with this whole balance thing, and I love what Shane was saying. There's a really cool book called The Book of Joy that talks about like joy is not happiness. Happiness is fleeting. Pleasure is fleeting. And he says you can find joy through adversity. You can find joy through the process. You can find joy in good things. But anyways, spend time alone. You quickly realize that, when I feel a little bit off or a little bit like, not good about something, I literally just go out, take an hour for myself on Sunday or any day. It doesn't have to be on Sunday. And then just breathe. Give my brain a chance to decompress, to not worry about anything else but just breathing, right? And then I count my victories from the previous week, build myself up. I count my areas of growth, and I come up with a plan, with an action plan for the next week. In the morning, super important, the morning routine, doing savers. Savers is a morning routine. It's an acronym that says S, it's silence in the morning. It could be from like 5 minutes to 15 minutes of silence, or it doesn't matter, 20, 25 minutes of silence and meditation. A, for affirmations and literally building yourself up. Just I feel happy, I feel healthy, I feel terrific, I'm someone that's trustworthy, etc. You know about affirmations. V is for visualization. How are you going to visualizing those feelings as if it already happened? Having the number one team, whatever it is, just visualizing success or a balanced life or whatever. E is for exercise. Okay. R is for reading something positive, feeding your brain, and then S is for scribing and just journaling your thoughts in the morning, as well as also doing a night routine before going to bed, right? Whether it's prayer, counting your victories again, building yourself up, counting your areas of growth, and what's going to be visualizing the next day.
Realization I had a few years ago is that everything we're doing here, self-development, believe it or not, guys, it's not adding anything to you. It's about subtracting things from you. It's about letting go of your fears. It's about letting go of your self-doubt, letting go of your self-worth issues. It's about letting go of your rationalizations. Somebody once asked the Dalai Lama what he gained from meditating. He said, well, I can't tell you anything I've gained, but I can tell you everything I've lost. Life is balanced. Life doesn't struggle to be balanced. It is perfectly in balance. The only reason the world is out of balance is stuff that we did. So, this point number 3, I say check your gut. Now, in order to check your gut, you have to be quiet sometimes. This is not your gut. Your gut is the feeling inside. But do you guys know what I mean by this? That feeling that you get when you know you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. That pleasurable activity, is it pleasurable anymore when you have that nasty feeling inside of you? And you know what's crappy about that pleasure? That Netflix episode you're watching to avoid that undesirable feeling, do you really get as much out of that Netflix episode as you want? No, because you felt bad inside, so what do? You watch another one, because you didn't get everything you wanted from the first one. And that, therefore, goes the cycle of despair, the cycle of pain that we create for ourselves. So I've learned over the years, and I encourage you to learn to listen to your gut. Your gut knows. Your gut knows everything. We just don't listen to it very often. One of my favorite books, The Tao Te Ching, it says, when movement continues naturally, rest will begin to arise. So when we let movement go on, the rest period will arise on its own. But the problem is we spend so much time moving. You're in class, thinking about everything you're going to do when you're not in class, and resisting the fact that you're in class. So then finally you're done with class and you're outside throwing a football around, or you're inside watching a movie or something, but you're thinking about how you totally bombed that test because you weren't paying attention, because you were thinking about what you're trying to do right now. That's how we live most of our lives. And it's not good, and it's not productive, and it's definitely not fun. So when you check your gut, when you're doing an activity, your gut always knows. And if we can listen to our gut, some of you are here because you listened to your gut. That was me. There was a lot of reasons for me to not do Southwestern, but something in my gut told me to do it. And thankfully, I listened to that. Step number 4 is when you mess it up, inevitably. Not if you mess it up, but when. You have a habit of messing it up. You already have that habit. It's going to take a while to break that habit. I still mess it up. But when you mess it up, forgive yourself, but do not forget the pain. Why is that important? The pain is what makes us stop doing it. When we put our hand on the stove, it burns, because if we didn't have that burning sensation, we would melt our hand off. That's why we have physical pain. I studied evolutionary biology, by the way. The reason we have emotional pain, it's the same thing. It's life, it's our spirit, it's our intuition telling us that something's off. Now, does that mean that you have to stop doing everything? No, not necessarily. Might mean you need to change the way you're doing it, change the perspective in which you're doing it. But your emotions are a temperature gauge, yet we ignore them, and you shove them down. Oftentimes, somebody will mess something up real bad, and I'll say, well, what do you think? And they're like, well, there's no point in thinking about it. It's in the past. I'm just going to forget about it. I'm like, well, you're going to do it again then. If you shove that emotion down, you're just going to keep repeating it. You're suppressing. I'm not talking about feel the pain. It's okay to feel pain. Well, one thing that I think children embody is being completely present with their emotions, right? Parents in the room, children are really good. When they're mad, and then when they're not mad, they're not mad. They don't hold on to anything. They could be screaming one moment, and you give them a eye pop, and all of a sudden they're not screaming anymore. They're very present with their emotions. Well, as adults, we learn to suppress, and it doesn't serve us. Now, sometimes we need to be patient with our emotions. You're in the middle of a meeting. You don't necessarily want to break down in the middle of a meeting. But what we do is we tend to just suppress it forever until we can't. And then the spiral continues. So forgive yourself, but don't forget the pain. And last but not least, turn sacrifice into a positive. One moment that changed, we all have life-changing moments, right? And usually they're very normal. Most life-changing moments in my life were very average sounding, not movie worthy. But this was a life-changing moment. I was a junior in college, and I was starting to pursue my entrepreneurial bug. I realized I didn't want to go in the medical industry. I was starting to pursue my entrepreneurial bug, and I went to this thing called Startup Weekend. They have them all over the country, but essentially what it is a group comes in and gets a bunch of people together, and you're supposed to start a business in 48 hours. So you start it up over the weekend, you pitch an idea, people that get voted on the best ideas then rally a team around them. So I pitched my idea, I got a team, and we were building this business in 48 hours. And I remember I was racing my bike home to grab lunch one day, and ironically, it was St. Patty's Day, so around this time. And I remember I lived in Boulder, Colorado. It was a great fun school to go to, but I lived in the heart. It's called the Hill. I lived in the heart of the student body. And what was my first feeling? I wish I could be there with them. I was in a fraternity, so I had a lot of fraternity brothers out there that day. And I just remember thinking, man, I wish I could be there with them. But this is the moment that my life changed. The next thought I had was, but you know what? This is why I'm going to be successful. And I rode my bike home. I don't know why I'm getting emotional right now, but I rode my bike home with a smile on my face because I remember thinking, the easy thing to do right now would be to get out and party with these people. But this is why I'm going to have a fulfilling and meaningful life. It's because I'm not. And I went to plenty of parties. I'm not saying I skipped all the parties. But that's how we turn sacrifice into a positive for ourselves. 10 years from now, you're not going to remember what movies you watched this next 2.5 months, but you will remember the people's lives who you changed. You will remember the moments that you faced your fears. You will remember the moments that you chose fulfillment over pleasure. And I hope you choose more of those moments, because your life will be better for it.